I never thought I'd be the kind of guy posting about relationship drama on Reddit, but here I am. I don't even know if I'm looking for advice, or if I just need to let this out. Either way, it feels like if I don't put it into words, my brain is going to keep running in circles, replaying everything over and over. I'm Josh, 28M, and until recently, I thought my relationship with Lauren, 27F, was solid. More than solid. I was sure she was the one. We'd been together for 3 years, living together for 2. We had our routines, our inside jokes, our favorite takeout spot where the lady at the counter knew our order by heart. I thought we were on the same page about everything. Hell, I was even looking at engagement rings. Then, one night, completely out of nowhere, Lauren looked up from her plate of takeout and casually asked, "What do you think about trying an open relationship?" I actually laughed, thought she was joking, but when I saw the serious look on her face, my stomach twisted. "Wait, you're serious?" She nodded. Setting her chopsticks down like this was just a normal dinner conversation. "I've been reading about it. A lot of couples do it. It can actually make relationships stronger." My brain stalled. I felt like I'd walked into a conversation that had already been happening, just not with me. "Is there someone specific you want to date?" I asked, because let's be honest, no one just randomly brings this up unless they already have someone in mind. Lauren rolled her eyes. "Josh, no. This isn't about someone else. It's about us. We've been together for years. Don't you ever wonder what else is out there?" "No." She blinked, like my answer genuinely surprised her. "Really? You've never thought about being with someone else?" "Lauren, I was looking at engagement rings last month." That shut her up for a second. Her lips parted slightly, like she hadn't expected me to say that. Then she sighed, reaching for my hand. "Babe, I love you. I love us. This isn't about not being happy. It's about making sure we don't wake up in 10 years wondering what we missed out on." I stared at her, trying to process the fact that this was the same girl who once got mad when a waitress laughed a little too much at my jokes. "So what? We just start seeing other people?" "Not just like that," she said quickly. "We'd have boundaries, rules. We'd talk about everything first." Everything in me was screaming no. But the way she looked at me, pleading for me to be on board, made it clear this wasn't just a passing thought. She'd already decided. And deep down, I knew that if I said no, it wouldn't change anything. It would just mean she did it behind my back instead of in front of me. So I swallowed down the lump in my throat and forced myself to nod. "Okay, if you think it'll be good for us, we can try it." Her whole face lit up. She squeezed my hand, smiling like I just agreed to a vacation instead of the slow destruction of our relationship. That night, while she excitedly talked about setting up dating profiles and discussing boundaries, I laid in bed next to her, staring at the ceiling, feeling like I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life. And I had no idea how much worse it was going to get. The next day, Lauren wasted no time. She downloaded Tinder and Bumble before we even finished our morning coffee, scrolling through profiles with the same excitement she had when picking a new restaurant to try. "Should I use this picture?" she asked, holding up her phone. It was a photo I took of her last summer at the beach. She looked amazing. Sun-kissed skin, wind in her hair, laughing at something I had said. "I used to love that picture." "I don't know, Lauren," I muttered, rubbing my temple. "Use whatever you want." She frowned like I wasn't being supportive enough, then went back to swiping. I sat there, drinking my coffee, watching the woman I thought I was going to marry pick out her next date. By that evening, she had already matched with a dozen guys. A personal trainer, a lawyer, a guy who owned a food truck. "Oh my God, this one's so hot," she gushed, shoving her phone in my face. I barely looked. Lauren was grinning, eyes bright, texting away like a high schooler with a crush. I sat there feeling like a ghost in my own apartment. That weekend, she had her first date. She spent hours getting ready, new dress, full makeup, even perfume she usually saved for special occasions. She twirled in front of the mirror. "How do I look?" "Great," I said, my voice flat. She didn't notice. She was too busy smiling at her reflection. Then she grabbed her purse, gave me a quick, "Don't wait up," and walked out the door. I sat there in the silence she left behind, staring at the spot where she had just been standing. Then, without even thinking, I got up, grabbed my keys, and left. I didn't have a destination in mind. I just needed to move, to be anywhere but in that apartment. Somehow, I ended up at a park we used to go to. A little hidden spot with picnic tables and fairy lights strung up in the trees. We had a lot of good memories here. I sat on a bench, watching the lights flicker, remembering the time Lauren spilled wine all over herself and laughed so hard she snorted. The way she used to grab my hand absent-mindedly, just because she wanted to touch me. That version of her felt like a different person now. And maybe she was. I didn't go home right away. I ended up at Avery's place. She opened the door, blinking in surprise. "Josh." "Hey," I said, feeling stupid for showing up unannounced. "I just needed to talk to someone." She stepped aside immediately. "Come in." Her apartment smelled like cinnamon. She'd been baking, probably stress baking, because that's what Avery did when something was bothering her. "Wine or whiskey?" she asked as she walked into the kitchen. "Whiskey." She poured 2 glasses and handed me one, then sat on the couch next to me. "All right," she said, tucking her legs under herself. "How bad is it?" I let out a humorless laugh. She left for her first date an hour ago. Spent more time getting ready than she ever did for me. Avery's jaw tightened. "I don't get it," I muttered. "I mean, I do. But how do you go from planning a future with someone to picking out the best picture for your dating profile in the same breath?" Avery hesitated. Then, carefully, she said, "I think she was always planning this, Josh. She just didn't tell you until she was ready." That thought hit like a punch to the gut. I ran a hand down my face. I should have said no. I should have fought harder. "Would it have changed anything?" she asked. I didn't have an answer for that. Avery studied me for a moment. Then, before I could react, she scooted closer and wrapped her arms around me. It was the first real hug I'd had in weeks. At first, I stiffened, unsure what to do. Then I just sank into it. She smelled like vanilla and something warm. She rubbed my back lightly, like she knew I needed it. When she pulled away, she smiled softly. "You don't have to do this alone, you know." For the first time in weeks, I actually believed that. Lauren started to change after that first date. Not in the way I hoped. Not in a way that meant she was realizing she'd made a mistake. She changed in a way that made it clear she was slipping further and further away. The texts became less frequent. The casual touches disappeared. Our Sunday morning pancake tradition? Gone. She was home less, but when she wasn't really there. Always on her phone, always smiling at something someone else had sent her. And when she did talk to me, it was never about us. It was about them. The men she was meeting, the new experiences she was having. "It's just so nice getting to know different people," she told me one night, sprawled across the couch like she didn't have a care in the world. "Like, this guy I went out with last night? He owns a bar downtown. Said he could get me and my friends free drinks whenever. Isn't that cool?" I stared at her. "Yeah, Lauren, that's fucking great." She either didn't catch the bitterness in my voice or ignored it completely. "You should really try it, Josh. I bet you'd have fun if you put yourself out there." I didn't answer. Because what the hell was I supposed to say? That my idea of fun wasn't pretending to be okay with watching the person I loved throw herself at strangers? That the last thing I wanted was to explore when I'd already chosen her? Instead, I just stood up. "I'm going for a walk." I didn't wait for a response. I just grabbed my keys and left. Somehow, I ended up at Avery's again. She opened the door, took one look at me, and sighed. "Whiskey or beer?" Surprised me. She handed me a beer and gestured for me to sit down. "Let me guess," she said, sitting next to me on the couch. She went on another date. 3 this week. Avery's expression darkened. "And she told me." I let out a sharp laugh, shaking my head. "She fucking told me I should try it. Like I should be grateful for the opportunity." Avery took a sip of her beer, watching me. "Why do you keep letting her do this to you?" That caught me off guard. "Letting her?" I repeated. "Yeah." She leaned back against the couch, tilting her head. "Josh, I get it. You love her. You wanted to marry her. But at what point do you stop letting her treat you like a backup plan?" I opened my mouth, closed it, because I didn't have an answer. Avery sighed, setting her beer down. "You don't have to date other people if you don't want to." But you do have to stop sitting around, waiting for her to wake up and realize what she's losing. I swallowed hard, looking away. I don't think she will realize it. Probably not, Avery admitted. But when she does, it'll be too late. A beat of silence passed. Then, softer, she said, "You deserve someone who chooses you first, Josh." For the first time, I started to believe that. Lauren started noticing the shift before she was ready to admit it. It was small things at first. How I didn't ask where she was going anymore. How I stopped reacting when she brought up other guys. I wasn't cold. I wasn't mean. I just stopped playing along. And it drove her crazy. One night, I was sitting on the couch, texting Avery about some stupid TV show she got me hooked on, when Lauren plopped down next to me. "Who are you texting?" she asked, trying to sound casual. I didn't even look up. "Avery." She went quiet for a second. "You've been talking to her a lot lately." "Yeah," I said, because what was I supposed to do, lie? Lauren shifted, tucking her legs under herself. "I just think it's kind of funny." I raised an eyebrow. "What's funny?" "That out of all people, you're spending so much time with my best friend." I set my phone down, finally looking at her. "You mean the person who actually asks how I'm doing instead of telling me about her latest date?" Her jaw clenched. "Josh, you wanted this, Lauren," I said, voice even. "You wanted to see other people. And now that I'm not sitting around waiting for you, that's when it's a problem?" She scoffed, standing up abruptly. I never said it was a problem. But the way she stormed out of the room said otherwise. The next morning, Lauren was waiting for me in the kitchen. She was in one of my old hoodies, one she hadn't worn in weeks, maybe months. "I think we should close the relationship," she said, just like that. No preamble. No easing into it. I blinked. "Oh." She nodded, wrapping her hands around her coffee mug like she was trying to steady herself. "I just think we've explored enough. And maybe it's time to focus on us again." I let that sink in. For weeks, she had been living it up, jumping from guy to guy, acting like I barely existed. And now that I wasn't waiting in the background, now that I was actually happy without her, she wanted to undo it? "You mean you've explored enough?" I said slowly. Lauren hesitated. "I mean, yeah, I guess." I laughed. Actually laughed. Because the audacity? Unbelievable. "And what if I'm not done exploring?" I asked. That hit her like a slap. "What?" "You got to do whatever the hell you wanted for weeks, Lauren. But the second I start seeing someone else, suddenly it's time to focus on us?" Her grip on her mug tightened. "Wait," she said, her voice sharper now. Are you actually seeing someone?" I didn't answer right away. Because the truth was, I was. Maybe it wasn't official. Maybe Avery and I hadn't put a label on it yet. But I felt something with her. Something real. Something honest. And Lauren could see it in my face. Her eyes widened. Oh my God. I just sat there, watching her put it together in real time. "It's Avery, isn't it?" I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. "Does it matter?" Her whole face changed. "Of course it fucking matters. She's my best friend." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh, I see. So that's where you draw the line. Not when you were out dating half the city, but when I sleep with someone you care about." She went quiet, not because she didn't have anything to say, but because she knew, deep down, she had no argument. I stood up, grabbing my keys. "Where are you going?" she asked, her voice smaller now. "To see someone who actually gives a shit about me." And then I walked out. Lauren showed up at Avery's place that night. I was already there. We were sitting on her couch, talking, nothing serious, just one of those easy conversations that felt natural with her. When the sharp knock at the door cut through the room, Avery glanced at me, brows furrowing. "You expecting someone?" I already knew who it was. "It's her." Avery sighed, running a hand through her hair. "Of course it is." She stood up, hesitated, then looked at me. "Do you want me to handle it?" "No," I said. "I need to do this." When I opened the door, Lauren was standing there, arms crossed, eyes burning. "Are you serious?" she snapped. "You're really here with her?" I leaned against the doorframe, staying calm. "Lauren, go home." She let out a sharp, bitter laugh. "Oh, fuck you, Josh. You're gonna stand there and act like I'm the bad guy? Like I'm the one who did something wrong? Avery, still behind me, spoke up. Lauren, you need to leave. Lauren's eyes snapped to her, full of betrayal. How long? She demanded. How fucking long has this been going on? Avery folded her arms. Since after you started sleeping with other people. Funny how that works. Lauren's jaw tightened. So, what? You two just decided I was disposable? No, I said quietly. You decided that. Her face flickered. Just for a second. Just enough to show the crack in her armor. I never meant for it to go this far, she muttered. Neither did I admitted. But you can't have it both ways, Lauren. You can't ask me to sit back and wait for you while you figure out what you want. She swallowed hard, her anger faltering. I just thought. She trailed off, shaking her head. I thought you'd still be there when I was ready. There it was. The truth, finally out in the open. Well, you thought wrong. A long silence stretched between us. I could see it sinking in now, that she wasn't in control anymore, that I wasn't waiting for her to choose me. Lauren exhaled shakily. So, that's it? That's it, I said. She stared at me, like she wanted to say something else. Maybe to apologize, maybe to fight one last time. But in the end, she just let out a quiet, bitter laugh and stepped back. I hope she was worth it, she muttered. Then she turned and walked away. I didn't watch her go. After she left, Avery let out a breath, rubbing her temples. Well, that was fun. I let out a short laugh. Sorry. She smirked. Not your fault, she has main character syndrome. I grinned, but it faded as I exhaled, running a hand through my hair. The weight of it all, the past few months, the constant emotional whiplash, was finally settling. Avery studied me for a moment, then took my hand. You okay? She asked, quieter now. I looked at her, really looked at her. At the person who had been there for me when Lauren wasn't. Who saw me for who I was, not just as some safety net. I squeezed her hand, feeling something settle in my chest. Yeah, I said, for the first time in a long time. I think I am.